Tangapon na bemak, Chris Quidman and Pascudigano numbers. It was very important that numbers were used, and we've forgotten how to use our numbers. So I'm going to start with counting to 10. Besk, Niz, Nihi, Now, Nun, Gamachin, Olowiganek, Agamochin, Esquinadic, Gudinsk. And you could tell that the word number 6 literally means the thumb on the other side of your body. Because when you're counting, you go in Bes, Niz, Nihi, Now, Nun, Gamachin, which literally means the thumb on the other side, Olowiganek, Agamochin, Esquinadic, which means one more left to count, Gudinsk, which means 110. Okay? So when we're counting, sometimes people have, and you'll see classrooms that'll teach necht. There's a difference between besk and necht. Besk literally means the number 1. Necht means once. That's why when I'm telling time, I would never say besk agia as 1 o'clock. I would say necht agia because it's telling me that the hand has moved once from the beginning, which is at 12. So it has to do with movement. It's even, necht is also used when you're doing storytelling. You'll go necht nagget, once before, a long time ago. You would never say besk nagget because that's the number 1. So there's evidence in our language the difference between the two. So for those of you who have learned how to count nechtness, it's just a minor thing to fix. It just means once, two. It means, so just know it's besk, niz, nihi, now, nun, gamachin, olowiganek, Agamochin, Esquinadic, Gudinsk. Now, it was very clever when I was researching the writing system and also how the numbers were going. Uncle, which is the word used for the number 11, you take that root word, Q-O-T, good, and then uncle just means a little bit more. So for example, if you were pouring me coffee, I would say, and you only poured me half a cup, I would say, I would say, put a little bit more in it. So, uncle is used for the word 11. So it's a little bit more than 10, gudunko. 12, of course, is 2 more than 10, nizunko. You're 13, and I find this really, really intriguing and fascinating about our language is our elders knew way before a writing system that no 2 vowels would ever be used together. So if I were to say 13, you look at your number 3, it's spelled N-I-H-I. And then put it to uncle, it wouldn't rhyme. You couldn't say nihi uncle because there would be 2 vowels, N-I-H-I and then A-N-K-U. Somewhere along the line, the elders replaced the N-I-H-I and used an S, and it's 13 is pronounced zanko, zanko, and you'll see that S in other things as we go along. 14 is the number 4, newanko, and 15 is nananko. Now, when we go to 16, remember I was telling you about gamachin, meaning the thumb on the other side, so obviously there has to be something said about how many times you're using your fingers. When you get to 16, you have to add something else to the uncle to let you know you've already been there before. And the word is gas, which has to do with quantity. Like we would say, gas nidlaudu, how much does that cost? Gas a man, how much money do you have? Gas agia, how much time has passed? So that word for quantity is added into starting at the number 16. So we say 16 this way. Gamachin gasanko. So that K-E-H-S goes in front of uncle. Gamachin gasanko. Olawiganuk gasanko is number 17. 18 is Agamochin gasanko. 19, Esquinade gasanko. Now, just as I said before, when we say goodens, which means 110, 2 tens is almost obvious. You're going to use the number 2 and the root word for 10, which is insk. So nizinsk is 20. Nizinsk. When you say 21, this is where you go nizinsk chel. You hear chel a lot, especially in Tobic. Nizinsk chel nekt. It's not Nizinsk chel best. It's Nizinsk chel nekt, because we've already used number 1, and so the nekt refers to the once, 20 plus once. So Nizinsk chel nekt is 21. Nizinsk chel niz is 22. Nizinsk chel nihi is 23. Nizinsk chel nel is 24. Nizinsk chel nun is 25. 26. Nizinsk chel gamachin. 27. Nizinsk chel olawiganuk. 28. Nizinsk chel agamochin. And 29 is Nizinsk chel esquinadic. Now, remember when I said about the 13? The same applies to the number 30. You'd have to say Nihiinsk if you were to say 30, if you were thinking that it's going to follow that pattern. But our elders put the S in there for us, so we didn't have to make it into 2 words. Zinsk is 30. And Zinsk chel nept is 31. Zinsk chel niz is 32. Zinsk chel nihi is 33. Zinsk chel nel is 34. Zinsk chel nun is 35. Zinsk chel gamachin is 36. Zinsk chel olawiganuk is 37. Zinsk chel agamochin is 39. Zinsk chel esquinadic is 39. Everybody's favorite age. Okay. When we do 40, you take that root word of 4, nel, and you add it to the root word for 10. Newinsk is 40. And you follow the same pattern. 41 is Newinsk chel nekt. 42, Newinsk chel niz. 43, Newinsk chel nihi. 44, Newinsk chel nel. 45, Newinsk chel nun. 46, Newinsk chel gamachin. 47 is Newinsk chel olawiganuk. 48, Newinsk chel agamochin. And 49, Newinsk chel esquinadic. So already you can figure out what your 50 is going to be. It's the root word for 5 and the root word for 10, Naninsk. And it goes the same way, Naninsk chel nept, Naninsk chel niz, Naninsk chel nihi, Naninsk chel nel, Naninsk chel nun. We're at 55 now, you're following along. Naninsk chel gamachin is 46. Naninsk chel olawiganuk is, 57. Naninsk chel agamochin is 58. Naninsk chel esquinadic is 59. Naninsk is 50s. Now, just as I said when you went to 16, we had to add a root word gas, which has quantity. You do the same thing when you get to the 60s. So 60 is pronounced gamachin gassins, okay, meaning 6 many tens, because you've already done the other tens, but this one is many more. Gamachin gassins. And so 61 is gamachin gassins chalnept. And 62 is gamachin gassins chalnis. 63, gamachin gassins chalnihi. And 64 is gamachin gassins chalnel. 65 is gamachin gassins chalnan. 66, gamachin gassins chal gamachin. 67, gamachin gassins chal olowiganif. 68, gamachin gassins chal agumochin. 69, gamachin gassins chal esquinatic. So the same goes with your 70s. Olowiganif gassins. And you follow the same pattern. You go olowiganif gassins chalnept, olowiganif gassins chalnis, olowiganif gassins chalnihi, olowiganif gassins chalnel, olowiganif gassins chalnun, olowiganif gassins chalgamachin, olowiganif gassins chal olowiganif, olowiganif gassins chal agumochin, and agumochin gassins chal esquinatic for 89. So we're almost done, 90s. The same thing, you take the word 9, esquinatic, and many tens, which is gassins. Esquinatic gassins chal nept, esquinatic gassins chal nis, esquinatic gassins chalnihi, esquinatic gassins chalnel, esquinatic gassins chalman, esquinatic gassins chalgamachin, esquinatic gassins chal olowiganif, esquinatic gassins chal agumochin, esquinatic gassins chal esquinatic. And then 100 is budatk, budatk. So ATQ is the root word for 100. And it follows the same thing. So the QOT means 1, just like it did in Woodins, QOTINSK. That QOT just means all alone, or soul, you know. So this is all alone 100. Budatk is 100. And then you follow the same thing as you did in the other numbers, which I'm not going to do, I'll let you do as your homework. You go budatk chalnept, budatk chalniz, and so on and so forth, all the way to 200. So when you say 200, you take the root word for 2, and the root word for 100, which is atk. So nizatk means 200. Nizatk chalnept, 201. Nizatk chalniz, and the rest that you probably know by now to repetition. So guess what happens to 300? Same thing. The elders, instead of putting the vowels together, put the S, and it's zatk. The same way that Zanko is 13, the same way that Zinsk is 30, 300 is zatk, which means 300, and it follows the same thing. Zatk chalnept, 301, zatk chalniz, and so on and so forth. 400, newat, 400, newat. 500, nanat, nanat. And so you know something happens when we get to the 6. You have to add the quantity that you've already, used those numbers. So you go gamachin gasat goes for 600. Gamachin gasat, 700 Olawiganak Gasat, okay, Olawiganak Gasat, 800 Agamulchin Gasat, 900 Esquinadek Gasat, Esquinadek Gasat, and 1,000 Kudampwak, Kudampwak. So you still see the Kut, and then the Ampwak means numbers that are like a field, numbers that, there's lots of zeros, so there's more than 2 zeros. Kudampwak, so you see zeros in a row, stuff is what 1,000 means. And it continues on the same way, Kudampwak Jalnekt, or 1,001. So when do we use our numbers? Get the Basquadigan is one way. That means, what's your telephone number? Get the Basquadigan, so that's one time when you're answering, so you can use your numbers, when you're giving your telephone number. Another time is gas idea, when you're asking for time. So you can tell your time, and I'll do that afterwards. Another question you can answer knowing numbers is Cassigden. How many years have you already been gifted with? In other words, how old are you? And when you're shopping, gas laudo, how much is it? Gas laudo, and you'll see this at trading, when people are selling their baskets, gas laudo. So you need these numbers. So if I were to answer my telephone number to you, and those of you who call me, sometimes I will say, Nigadam wink the bus gudignal, leave me your numbers, the bajimatuk damolage, I will call you back. And matuk damwin, there's 2 ways of saying call me, and matuk literally means the vibration of a wire, because when they have these telephone lines going from pole to pole, there's a vibration that occurs to bring that sound across, and that's what matak damwin means. It shaped those wires to send a message to me. So matak damwin, yutol nabasku digano. Here are my telephone numbers: Niz, Olawiganak, Nihi, Chalnel, Niz, Olawiganak, Olawiganak. Now, just like when we say in our numbers in English, I will say 273, 4277. I wouldn't say 273, 4,177. So we do it individually. And so the chel is that marker in between the 3 and the 4. So we still use the word chel. So that was my number. Niz, Olawiganak, Nihi, 273, Chel, Nel, 4, Niz, 2, Olawiganak, 77. When you have numbers with 0 in it, in English, sometimes 0, it means there's no value. But for us in our language, it has value. So we always take the number in front of the 0. Say if you had 80, say you had an 80 in your number, then you would say 80 as opposed to 8 nothing. Because sometimes people will literally translate it and will agmochin marege, but it's something, so you can't say nothing. So what I'm suggesting to you learning how to do your numbers is take the number in front of the 0. If it's 800, then you say agmochin gasat, 800. That way you give it value. And try not to use Mareget, because Mareget means there's no value. And what time is it? Digej, Newaje, I'm going to say 4 o'clock. Newaje, but you can do that. You can say 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and if you have to say morning or evening or afternoon, you can say that. Basquek is Basquek in the afternoon, so it's PM. And AM is Newaji Espazul, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. And that's how you would determine whether it's AM or PM. So, and then of course, how old are you? I'll be honest, I'm going to say Gamachin Gassins, Chalnihi Gassigden. I am 63 years old. So that's another way of using our numbers. And it's kind of fun to put it on birthday cakes, by the way. and to put the number. And sometimes when people are afraid to show their number in English, they don't want the candles on there, you can put it in Maliseet, and people won't know what the number is unless they learn it. And of course, expensive, or when we're shopping, it's more than $100. So numbers are very important, and I wouldn't want anybody to go without knowing their numbers. The other word I forgot to mention is Olnak Wabis Hamwin is the other word for call me. Olnak is literally steel, iron, or metal. And so Olnak Wabis Hamwin is literally referring to how the wires are made with steel. There was a story about an elder one time who was picking medicine on her horse, and she was upset because when she tied her horse, the horse got undone, and so the horse left her, and the horse left her picking her medicines up in the hills. And so the elder said, how am I going to get home? And then looked up and saw the telephone wires going across. She went and she got a long pole, and she went and, call me up, because she thought she could actually contact somebody that way, because she had heard about this invention of sound going across the wire. So Mattakdamwin is one way to tell somebody to call me, or Mattakdamwin, and now we say for texting, Wikhamwin, write me. Wikhamwin is another way of saying text me. Be proud, learn your numbers, and call me.